name is Suhaee Abro. I'm a performing artist from Pakistan living in Italy right now. I started learning dance at a very young age by Shima Kirmani, who's my guru, and I started with learning Indian classical dance, specifically Bharatanatyam. After which, many years passed, and I really wanted to just explore with movement, with other forms of dance, with other ways and other forms of expressing myself. And eventually, I went on to study contemporary dance, but I didn't just end up learning contemporary dance. I learned a lot more. A lot of that had to do with the school I went to in Italy. A lot of that had to do with my personal journey in my life at that time. And so since then, I've really been thinking about what movement is really all about, what dance is all about, what this body is all about, why we get injured, why we feel pain, why we feel so much freedom in it sometimes when we do. And so to do that, to explore that, to, answer my questions, to ask more questions, to think about more things related to this, I decided to start this podcast, When We Move. You are listening to episode 1, and this episode will be basically my friend asking me questions, unlike all the other episodes where I will be asking questions and listening mostly. I decided to do this because I just wanted to be able to tell my story, to share my thoughts on all these things. So I hope you enjoy listening. This time it's the first time, so I'm not going to be asking any questions to anyone. But I have my friend Aadil here who's going to ask me questions. And these are questions that I might usually ask others also, but since Aadil has been my friend for so many years, and he's sort of also worked with me on little things, or been a very close part of my dance journey in many ways. So perhaps he has questions himself. So I'll just let it be and go ahead with it.
So, how are you? How are things going? During this unique time, and how is your movement practice shifting and integrating? With this situation.
I'm obviously. I think I can't have one answer to saying that I'm feeling good or bad. It's been a lot of ups and downs in these few months since the lockdown happened, since COVID-19 came into our lives. So I think it's. I've had days where I've really broken down and I felt useless, and I felt scared for the world, for people I love, for all of us. And on the other hand, I'm also getting time, and I'm embracing the privileges that I have, such as, some sort of financial stability at this point, a space that I can have where I can sort of dance and re-explore myself without any deadlines. Because what happens is when we're performing, when we're constantly working, there's a lot of deadline. And you have a performance on this date, so you have these many weeks to practice, or you have to teach for these many days, or you have a shoot coming up for these many days, or all of those things. Right now, there's no deadline, and I'm really enjoying connecting with my movement, with myself through my body. And then I've also started online teaching, which I thought is really something that I would never do or get myself into, but it's not so bad in many ways. But yeah, it's quite it's not easy, but it's also something that is helping me come closer, or not even come closer, but help me go deeper into my exploration of what movement is, what dance is, what the body is all about, what I feel about it.
Could you expand on the idea of a movement practice? Because I remember when we first became friends, and I had sort of become introduced to the idea of dance. Most people see it as a performative activity. You dance for other people, right? Or it's like some sort of fitness activity. Whereas you're talking about dance in the context of connecting to yourself. I usually don't, hear dance get talked about in this context. And to an outsider who, lives a very sedentary lifestyle, it's hard to know what a movement practice is.
Now this is why I've started this series When We Move, because again I also felt like as a professional dancer, dance, especially हमारे पाकिस्तान में, especially in our country, it's really something that's has been made into entertainment, or just like enjoying. If you watch me dance, if you watch me move, you want to have fun, you want to clap along, and you want to say, oh wow, she's got
like Zumba.
Yeah, like, oh wow, she's wow, her body moves like that, wow. And that's all. On the other hand, I've been going deeper into this, and I've been starting to understand since a few years. Like, I've been sharing my explorations with you about this, that dance is really so much more, or movement is so much more than that. Then it's so much more than just showing off your beautiful body, or your grace, or how well you understand rhythm, or how beautiful you look in a certain costume. I think it's really connecting with something deeper inside you. And now I'm the one asking questions all the time, which I will after this episode. And I know it's very hard to speak about this in words, but when you move, now there is one thing that as a regular person, you're waking up, you're sitting on your laptop, you're working, like very restricted movements in your body, right? You're not really allowing that to expand, and that's something that does something in your heart, in your brain. It just becomes narrower. The more you move in whatever way, the more you let yourself, let's say, run or stretch or breathe. We breathe, we're all breathing, but we somehow forget to breathe, like take deep breaths, staying in the moment, right? Like we just don't inhale and exhale sometimes. And just by doing that, you feel so much more within yourself. Another thing that movement does is, for me, and I've been hearing also from many other people, is that it connects you to understanding who you are, and maybe sometimes for some people it's a spiritual connection, which happens to me too. I do somehow connect with the invisible world, if there is any, or maybe it's my imagination. But just letting myself be imaginative also does quite a lot for me in many ways. It helps me become more aware of how my weight is kept in a certain part of my body, how I feel, and these things aren't to be taken for granted. We just say, oh, emotions, whatever, like get over your emotions, move on, do things, you've got to do things. I think that's such a killer. It's a killer, because if you're not connected with how you're feeling, how do you confront it? How do you accept it? How do you move on? So yeah, it's a lot of things that movement does. Movement practice is, again, one thing is to train your body to do something, and one thing is to train it in a very gentle way, in a kind way, where you allow yourself to move, which also takes away a lot of taboos in your head that you might have about your body. Like I might say, oh, I'm a woman in Pakistan, so there are certain things I cannot do with my body, or there are certain things I just have to, even if my intentions are pure and innocent and clear, it doesn't matter. I just have to think about it, and that sort of taboo restricts certain connections that I could make with myself. So I would do that without the public, without putting it on social media, without putting it on stage, but for myself. And that's another important thing. Dance and movement socially is also very important. I mean, it helps you to interact with people, with different kinds of people, different emotions, different energies. But being with yourself is scarier sometimes. And you meditate, so you would understand.
Yeah, I was just thinking because you were talking about
Right?
emotion, and
Yeah.
in my meditation practice, one thing that I use a meditation app. So the person who narrates the meditation or guides the meditation, they often guide you to identify emotion as patterns in your body. Like, for example, you're feeling stressed, it's tightness in your chest or something in your stomach.
Yeah.
Anger can be a furrowed brow. And so when you observe them as bodily patterns, they sort of stop being emotions, because then you can identify them as things your body is doing. And then you can tell your body, you can just manipulate your body to stop feeling stressed. Like, for example, just taking a deep breath, stretching. I imagine dance would be the more, I wouldn't say extreme, but more deliberate, more advanced version of that, where it's sort of like emotional play, using your limbs or your head or your entire body as sort of like an instrument.
But Adil, if you remember, many years ago when I was dancing a lot and performing a lot of times, I mean, it felt like I was doing the thing that I loved the most in my life, and the only thing that exists in my life, really, that I can do with so much passion. Remember, I was always injured. I always had health issues. I was always suffering in one way or the other. And I'm not blaming dance for it. I'm not blaming anything, but I'm saying there was something wrong. There was something that I wasn't connecting to the essence of dance. Even though I would get to hear, wow, you're so passionate, or wow, you really put your heart. But there was something different. I wasn't connected to all of that. I was dealing with, I wasn't using dance to heal me in any way. I was using it the other way that a lot of dancers, professional dancers, go through: competition or jealousy or achieving perfection. Just like.
Right. So instead of like engaging with your body, you're instrumentalizing it to perform
like
things instead of.
Exactly. Like if my hand goes here, the elbow is supposed to be a little rounded, the wrist is supposed to be, and if I don't get that right, I'm failing. So if you feel that way and you overuse your body without really understanding, without really being kind to your body and all these things, then you're not you're not letting dance help you in any way. You're sort of getting stuck in the loop of trying to achieve some sort of perfection. And of course, I was younger. I knew I wasn't doing well at school. I knew I wasn't doing well at anything else. So I had to be good at this, And I didn't know what it meant to be good at dance. Now, in all its totality, I don't agree with a good and bad dance. I understand a good or bad performer. There's not even a bad performer, it just comes with experience. But there is no good or bad dancer.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like, I was gonna say, just like there aren't good or bad meditators, but there are good and bad meditators. You're being a bad meditator when you're not sort of, engaging with the meditative practice.
But bad is again this thing of bura bacha, ganda bacha, or bad. Like that thing I feel like is maybe, for example.
That doesn't, like, for example, when you were trying to, really overachieve with dance and, achieve some sort of perfect form, geometry, in that sense, that could be being a bad dancer because you're not dancing, you're performing. Right?
But again, I think it's about the journey that we go through. It's I think we put so many labels on everything of you're not connecting, or you're not. Even now, like if I'm going deeper into this thing of connecting with myself or connecting with being human, even then I can't expect others to do that. I feel like that's their journey and I can't judge them. I have to judge them according to how they are, where their journey is. If they're in the moment of making their art aesthetically more beautiful, then I would think I will be at their level, and there's no level below or above anyone. It's just we were all at different levels in our lives. For example, I get told a lot, you are a good dancer, but there's no presentation in your work anymore. You're always just your clothes or whatever, no aesthetic, no, what is that all about? And I get to hear that in Pakistan in a different way. Maybe for Europeans, I'm a little too more about aesthetics sometimes for that maybe. Because again, I'm still figuring that out for myself, but for Pakistanis, they don't get why I don't wear glamorous costumes anymore, why I don't wear jewelry anymore. And I keep telling them, if you haven't noticed, it's purpose. I'm doing that on purpose. It's a statement I'm trying to make. It's just allowing myself to be human. I'm not against people who do different things with their. But we're here to make different. We're here to make separate our individual contributions to the society or all of that. Speaking from my own society or the country we're coming from, I feel that we put so many labels on people. You're too skinny, you're too fat, you're too tall, you're too short, you're 40, you can't do this, you're 12, you're too young for this. I don't know, where we don't allow, for example, when children are younger, we tell children, read stories, imagine. And then when they start imagining, we're like, shh, don't, okay? Just do your homework. You have to have a good job, you have to work well, earn money, all of that. Anyway, we just don't let people imagine anymore, And then if we want to become dancers or musicians or go into that, and then again, we're just stuck. This is the rule. Okay, don't question it. This is the technique. This is what you have to do. Yeah, uske andar you bring truth in it. Ab wo truth, how will we find that truth if we are not connected to our own truth? If I'm good at expressing happiness through my dance, or if I'm good at expressing grief through my dance, whatever, just being, just talking about emotions because it's easier to also express them, even if you're not connected to yourself, because you can be a great actor, but an actor or a dancer, again, they have to connect with the truth of that moment. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about pretending. It's much more than pretending, and that's why I think I am tired of pretending as a performer. So if I'm getting breathless during a performance, I won't just smile and allow myself to not show people that I am doing this, But
right.
because it's happening to me. I'm getting exhausted, but I'm also enjoying the process of feeling exhausted. So it's all right. I let myself do that. So yeah, this went all over the place. So again, when there are so many things related to it, How can we
Yeah, I
say?
mean, it's a very nebulous concept, and we don't really have like a standard nomenclature or set of terms to work with.
Yeah.
So naturally, it would take. I mean, for you as well, it's not like you read the thing in a dictionary, right? You learned it through like dozens of years of experience to get to this point, and it's primarily like a non-verbal phenomena.
Yeah.
So
And I
it
don't
makes
think
sense that
I've
it would
reached
take a long
any
time.
point. Yeah, exactly. I'm also still in the process of understanding and learning and exploring. And I think that's one thing that should never end, you know. Sometimes it happens, we do feel like, oh, I put so many years into something. And I feel like you feel like I have the right to, just have the right to make a judgment about something. I feel that too sometimes. You know that. I have my moments.
Definitely know that.
Yeah, I have my moments where I'm like, oh, 20 years. It's going to be 20 years. But again, that's it's okay to feel that way too. But it's also very important for me to know that I will always be learning, and I should never stop that process. Should never stop the process of learning. Because if I stop that, then I'm sort of I'm not moving on. I'm just, even if I'm teaching right now, I'm not really letting myself, go further than what I am today, And I think because I've let myself do that, I do find something different in me almost every year. Maybe sometimes it's and it's good to be with what I'm good at for many years. But because I like to know what's more to that, I go a little deeper into it. There are dancers who stick to the thing that they're good at for many, many years, and that's beautiful. Again, that's their contribution. Mine is different. I want to know more. If I've learned how to do this, with my elbow going slightly up, with my hand going here, then I want to know what's more than that.
So this is like, isn't it challenging trying to teach this to people? Like, even trying to understand it at a conceptual level, like it goes against so many things, so many presuppositions that I have about dance. So when you teach someone, especially online, it must be quite difficult. I'm sure they must have some sort of, initial culture shock or something when they, start learning dance this way.
I think that first coming to the part when I started teaching or tried to start teaching this to people physically in my space, and you've attended my classes too. So I think also with that I'm learning, to be better at it, to be better in the sense to be at people's spaces, to understand that everyone has a different journey, and everyone is in a different place with their body. So the first thing that I need to do is just make it very, over the surface kind of thing. Just breathe, just stretch a little, just, sort of say hello to little body parts, letting them activate. But now I think I feel that I really go slow, very slow. I really want people to just let themselves at their own pace connect with how their body feels, how it moves, how they're feeling, what it means to listen to your body, what it means to make a conscious effort to make decisions for इस movement के बाद मैं ये करूँगी या ये करूँगी, if I'm going here or if I'm going here, those kind of things, like what is making those conscious decisions all about. So that's something that I help them go through slowly. Some people stick to it and they're ready to, they ask questions, they're curious, they're ready to go in a slow pace thing. Some people they're like, okay, what is this all about? dance seeker. We want to learn dance. We don't want to. What is this? I mean, just walk away from me sometimes, and because I'm not teaching them dance, But my point is, once I allow them or let them feel this part of themselves, then I can also go into techniques. I can go into other things. What I want to give to as a teacher is that I want to give them the freedom to imagine. I want to give them the freedom to understand what it's like to be in their body, what it's like to move when they want to move, what it's like to learn a language, a movement language, but also not have a language that everyone speaks, have a language of yourself.
Right. So when they sign up for Lord, the experience when we're dance classes, it's not like a Bharatanatyam class or a salsa class or a flamenco class or a contemporary
class. That's not the first thing I want to do with them. Yeah. Right. If it's a workshop, the way you attended my workshops, of course, I don't have enough time with them. But now with my online teaching, some students stick to me. Now it's been 2 months that they're going on and on and on. Some students are taking classes every day. And I can see that there is progress in some way. But again, that's up to them. They have that curiosity. So I'm saying with those students, the longer term students, I can go on, come to the technique bit. That then, if it's a workshop, I try to throw things around here and there too, just for people to maybe be aware of, even if they're not able to experience it, at least they will think about it. Was that like for you too? Were you able to hear some things or see some things, but not able to go deeper into it with your body?
I didn't really feel any echoes of forms, in the class. I didn't feel like I was. Well, I came from the perspective of someone who has had no experience with dance at all, right? So I probably wouldn't be able to recognize them even if they were there. But to me, it felt like a very improvisational, like inherently improvisational class, where it's like if you had to figure out how to dance without ever seeing someone dance before, that's what it would be like, really feeling your body first, feeling the rhythm of the music, trying to coordinate your movement in relation to other people who are in the workshop. So it really was about sort of figuring out your body in 1 or 2 hours, trying to figure out okay, how does my body naturally move, just like how every instrument has its harmonic frequencies, its own resonance. You're sort of figuring out okay, how can I use my body, becoming familiar with it. But that's how it felt like to me.
But that's the most basic thing, and I feel like it's not just you. Even for someone who danced all these years, even I didn't know what it was like to be in my body. I just wanted to be like that dancer and this dancer, and it's beautiful to learn movement languages like Bharatanatyam, ballet, Kathak, Odissi, salsa, all these forms, whatever the forms are, hip hop. But I think it disconnects if you don't allow yourself to connect with who you are. You sometimes that makes you disconnect with who you are, because then you're just trying to be in that form. I felt that happening to me, and that's why I wanted to go here, And I think for me that's such a powerful thing to just think about what it's like to be in your body, because we're never allowed to be in our bodies even without dance. I mean, just means we're always shamed. I'm saying body shaming or all these things are not just for fat people or skinny people or short people.
Or it's internalized,
it's internalized too.
I think a lot of modern people just hate their bodies. they just want to change them and make them mimic, some ideal. Either it's a health standard that my body needs to be, in perfect health, in perfect shape. And certainly I felt that way when I joined your workshop. I was very conscious, like, oh, I'm not moving like the other people are, right? I'm not moving like you're supposed to move. I had this perception that dance need to be very exact and precise in your movements, and I'm sure other people feel that way too.
I think also like health and fitness is, I really appreciate that people are now really thinking about yoga and Pilates and cardio and workouts and gyms and all of that. But at the same time, it's always about looking good. It's always about the outer appearance, and I think that's very dangerous. It's great to look good, but again, what is to look good,
Right.
What is it to look good? Is it that I've lipstick on right now? Is it that I'm thin? Is it that I'm not thin? Is it that I'm is it that I'm dark, or is it that I'm not dark? All these things, like, what does that become then? So,
or by even setting up the expectation that I need to look good. You might not ever reach that point where you're satisfied with
it will
how
keep
you
going
look.
on and on and on. But
Was that what motivated you to come up with this form of teaching dance? Because you were tired of chasing some aesthetic ideal and constant. Because I know you're quite harsh on yourself after a performance about how it went, right? You always feel like you could have done better. So was it sort of like a psychological reaction to that? You're tired of trying to become like an expert or a master at some aesthetic form, because you never feel like you reach there.
I think part of it is the fact that about this thing that you say, that I'm never satisfied. I think part of not feeling satisfied is good. Part of it is dangerous, because if you're really thinking I'm a failure and I didn't do well, then you're just hurting yourself, which I do, like you were saying sometimes. I'm in the process of eliminating that from myself, where I can say, oh, I could have done better, but at the same time I felt good. I want to think that I felt good doing something. Another thing that happens to me is I put a lot of emotional and mental and physical energy in my performances, right? And because I have epilepsy, a lot of times I'm kind of out of my head, and I'm always just, a lot of times I'm just saying things, because maybe that's the time when I need to be silent. But I don't get the time to be silent, because everyone's coming and meeting you, and everyone wants to say something, and that's where I take the support of my parents, or I take your support when you're around, to just help me manage things in that moment, because I can't really do much. That's again my personal thing. Go deeply into something, it's hard for me to bring myself back to reality. Coming back to the beauty and aesthetic part of it, I think a lot of it is starting from when I was bullied for being dark or being ugly. Because when I was young, I loved beauty. I always looked at my long, beautiful hair in the mirror. Everything seemed so beautiful. Like I would see colors in my house, and I thought, wow, there's so much beauty in the world, in this life. But then I started going to school, and children started telling me I was ugly and I was dark. And then when we went to the school that we went to together for bells, which was amazing, I still feel like Miss Shera really helped me gain my confidence back in many ways. I had lost completely. But there also, you remember, I was in my teenage years, and it's that time of life when your body is changing, and I was just always ridiculed, you know.
Yeah, and it's not really a school-specific thing. It's like a
It's
hazing
children,
ritual
yeah.
that every
It's not even children,
every
it's
child goes
where they
through.
were coming from, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not even the children. I mean, I had this anger for many years against all these, you know, classmates of ours. Some of them apologized to me later, which felt really good, and it made me think, oh, why was I still angry? You know, although they were also kids, you know. But because I got hurt, and I thought, and it just made me question what it was to be yourself, what it was to be beautiful, and all of those things. And eventually, when I came to the dance world, then again, oh, you're so fat, you can't even fit into your costume. Oh, why is your tummy out? Oh, why is this? Then again, I was like, okay, like, where do you belong? You know, what can you ever be accepted to be the way you are? And now, obviously, with time, those things, I'm starting to answer those questions in my head. I'm starting to create new questions for myself. My hair did a lot for me in understanding this for myself, because it made me think, oh, so now I didn't have hair, I shaved my head. Okay, I did it for a movie, but it was much more than just doing it for that character. It really taught me so much. It brought me back to understanding where beauty was coming from, you know, whether it existed, whether what all those questions, you know. I mean, I don't have answers yet. But yeah, I'm in the process of understanding it. But I think shaving my head has brought me closer to that. And I'm not saying that I don't want long hair, I'm against it. I want long hair again because I think now I can actually appreciate it again, you know. But in terms of what it brought to me, I started thinking, so we just make ourselves we ridicule ourselves all the time, you know, and especially for them.
It sounds like primarily the motivation behind your dance practice and your teaching practice comes from a place of healing your own trauma.
Yeah.
And like the goal is to sort of bring people to reconciliation with their own bodies after alienating themselves from it, you know, for decades. Internally, and you know, they were society alienated ourselves from experiencing our bodies.
And for some people, it's not a trauma. For some people, they don't go through these feelings of feeling hurt and pain, all of that. But even for them, it's very it's great to connect somewhere with you know, and accept. I think acceptance is such a, everyone would say, oh, what a cliche thing to say, but the truth is accepting is the hardest thing to do. Accepting each and every flesh in your body, your bones, your cells, you know, the texture of your skin, the hair, the ingrown hair, all of that, pimples, each and everything, it's you. So we've just got to like bring ourselves to slowly accepting or embrace that. And I think somewhere this lockdown, because this lockdown happened pretty much right after I shaved my head, it gave me the chance to go deeper into this.
Yeah, and I think it's very useful to have a practice like that during the lockdown, especially because after the lockdown you just become, at least for me, I became completely immobile, right? जो हमारी एक थोड़ी बहुत movement हो रही थी body के साथ, that you're going to the office and coming back and meeting people, those are sort of really the only things people do with their body these days, aside from working out. Even that was taken away.
So I'm really excited what this series will bring. I've really tried to speak with a lot of different people, and I'm continuing to doing that. But this is not to make any sort of competition in between different dancers that I'm speaking with, or different people who work with body and movement and related to these things, whether they're doctors or whether there's sports people or musicians like Ezster, who's worked a lot for movement. Worked as a musician, he's done so much with theater, with dance, with a lot of these things, and filmmakers and actors. And I'm interested in speaking with people who really work or who are able to sort of understand, or maybe not understand, what this is all about. And this is not to have a competition or that's a better person in their field, that's why I'm talking to them. It's really out of curiosity that I reach out to certain people that I reach out to. Not to say that you're a good dancer and you're a good musician, that's why I'm speaking with you. That's not what my series is all about. This series that I'm doing is not about anyone's achievement or anything, or it's really out of curiosity that I ask them the questions I ask. See something in there, something non-visible, something invisible in their work that they must have thought about, that they must have felt somewhere. And that's why I'm doing that. But thank you for asking me questions. Helps to speak with, and especially you. I mean, even if you're not someone who's been a part of this field, you've seen it very closely all these years, and you've seen me grow in a different way, in no good way, bad way, but you've seen the changes in my work, in my way of seeing things also. So I thought it would be better for you to.
Yeah, and it's also fun for me to be an observer, like a fly in the wall, watching these things happen, because most people don't get that close of a viewpoint to an artist's work, and specifically the dance world.
Thank you for listening to When We Move. To stay updated with the other episodes, every Friday I will be sharing more conversations with many other interesting guests that I have spoken with. So stay tuned.